on the 27th of December. It's 8:54 in the morning. It's cold. It's going to be in the 50s today, which is pretty cold for us. Oh, my glasses, I think. So what we're going to talk about today is Russian army. I think one of them is the Sixth Army is staging by the borders of Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Norway, and their plan appears to be to use armor, tanks, mobile artillery, armored personnel carriers, and missiles to attack and invade and take over the capitals of these countries, which would break the spirit of the country. The army would, throw their uniforms away, run away, surrender, etc. That would be the strategy. And we're going to go through all the details of this, but it looks like this is real. I mean, you could always say Putin's bluffing, but the buildup is pretty massive, and it doesn't make me think that they're just posturing to negotiate or anything like that. Lavrov said that the Ukrainians are using the NATO-given missiles, the missiles NATO gave to them, to attack civilian population centers in Russia. Now, when that happens, Russia has to respond, or the people of Russia will respond, and that could mean Putin gets a bullet in the head or something like that, and the people freak out and panic, and so I think this is real, and Biden in the middle of this is going around saying we're rushing the weapons to Ukraine, we want them to have all the weapons, so. All right, I'm going to go into the live stream. There's a lot of other stuff with it too, like cutting internet cables on the part of Russia, and we'll get into all of this. Let me go into the live stream, make sure we got everything working, and put my posts up while people are coming in. Stuff with it too, like cutting internet cables on the part of Russia. Yeah, we're good on the sound and picture. When they come up with the insults, I just block them. That's all. There's not that many of these trolls, by the way. You get rid of them, Okay. And I'll get my email address up. And I'm done with that. Pin this up. People are coming in. We should get a pretty good amount of people in here today. I'm not sure. But, a lot of people don't want to hear the truth, but they're still listening to. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Finland captured a Russian civilian vessel that apparently 4 cables were cut connecting Finland and, let me get my notes. I think it was Finland and Estonia. Anyway, this ship dropped their anchor and was dragging it and ripped up the internet cables. And they also ripped up a power cable. One of the cables connected to Germany as well. So the NATO people are pretty ticked off, and Finland seized the ship, the Russian ship, which was a civilian vessel. That's pretty heavy. Russia is not going to enjoy that. So Russia is staging on the borders of these countries, apparently getting ready to blast them with short to intermediate, well, probably just not IRBMs or anything, just, missiles that could maybe go, 20, 30, 40 miles or something like that on the border. And they're probably going to barrage them with missiles. They'll probably try to take out the radar and the air defenses. With the missiles, they'll probably have planes at a safe distance fire missiles to take out more radar and anti-aircraft systems. Then they'll have bombers come in and bomb, and then the tanks and the infantry will roll in, and they'll try to make their way to fight into the capital and see if they could seize the capital, which would be basically the psychological end of the country. Remember Syria, 11 days it took. This is end times. Don't think that the time frames are normal. They probably won't be. Okay? If NATO's relying on Biden, they're in a lot of trouble. Anybody relying on Biden is in a lot of trouble, especially since Biden has 3 weeks roughly to go. Now, I want to reiterate this with you so you really understand it. America is at a vulnerable point now until January 20th. This is a given, okay? But America is much more vulnerable starting January 20th. You got to get this down. Putin knows it, the world knows it, the media doesn't talk about it because they don't want you to understand and get fearful. Okay, Trump's president at noon on the 20th, I think, something like that. Okay, now Trump has to put his Secretary of Defense, Homeland Security, or whatever they call it, security, his Justice Department. He's got to get all these people in place before he can move. He's got to change the key people at the Pentagon. You got that? And Congress has to approve these secretaries of defense in these positions. Now, Trump does seem to have control of the House and the Senate, and he might be able to fast track these approvals through in a day or so. This, you got to understand, is a possibility. But can Trump brief the guy that he intends to run the security, replace Jake Sullivan, run the defense and all of this? Can he brief them on classified briefings? I think not, but he might do it anyway. I don't know. Why? Because he just anticipates putting these people in office. Congress may not approve some of them. And these people at this point in time probably don't have a security clearance unless Trump persuaded Biden to give them security clearances. But I don't think so. I don't think Biden would play ball. See, when Trump appoints somebody as like Secretary of Defense, they're going to just about automatically get a security clearance, okay? Rather rapidly, I would expect. So these people, I don't believe, are being briefed. Trump is, because it's a given, January 20th, Trump is the vice president, the president. And the vice president is probably also getting briefed because he would step in if Trump got gravely ill or had to have an operation or something was wrong with his health or whatever, right? Or he got injured or killed. So those guys are in place. They get briefed. Whatever Biden wants them to know, anyway. Can Biden conceal things from them? Sure. You know, starting around January 15th, could the CIA and NSA and Pentagon start shredding all kinds of documents? They could. Who's going to stop them? Trump can't. They could make it so there's no trace of it. They could do this. Okay. So Trump's key people need to get approved by Congress and then take the position. Now, I'm assuming they're not getting briefed. So then they need to get briefed rapidly. But who the heck is briefing them? Biden's people are still there. You got the problem? Think about it. Biden's people tell them only what they want to tell them. Now, they get approved by Congress. Let's say Trump fast tracks it. Okay, now they need to change the heads of all the departments, let's call it that, right? To be loyal to them and faithful to them. They can't run the country on Biden's people. That's suicide. So how long does that take? I don't know. And then when he changes them, they have to figure out what's going on and put their subordinates into place. Guys, it would be rather super rapid if this happened in a month. I think you're looking at 3 months, 2 months, not a month. I mean, he might fast track in Congress and they may get in there and they may start appointing key people they have figured out, but till the gang that's taking office, Trump's people, get into control and all these, you know, the CIA, the Pentagon, the heads of the military, the Homeland Security, justice, many other things. He needs to get the ICE people with the border working. He needs the Coast Guard working to protect the shore. Well, that's really the military in essence, but not really. It isn't. It isn't. In a time of war, it's part of the Navy. Since there's no war, it would still be kind of independent. I think it's under Treasury or something. So I'm not sure. I think it sounds stupid, but I think that's where it is. I don't remember. I used to know all this stuff. So anyway, they get in, then they got to figure out what's going on. They got to get the flow of things working. They need to get correct, real, hard intelligence as to what's going on. Well, they don't know what they're doing. All they know is what Biden told them, and that's not good to take action on. And they know that. When I say Biden, I mean his administration. So the country is going to be, I would say, very weak until around Easter. You'd have probably towards the end of March, if not April. They're going to be very, very disorganized. They got to take care of Treasury. They got to take care of the IRS and the Federal Reserve. They got to get around the SEC, prep them for wars. I think it's so much. Okay? Now, Trump is more capable, probably threefold, than the previous presidents, but he ain't God. And it isn't going to be an easy thing at all. And Biden is dumping it all on him. Now, we're not hearing much at all about North Korea and China stirring up the pot, which makes me concerned. They may be laying low, keeping a low profile, and when Russia starts in, they're going to go. Now, Iran made a new treaty with Russia. Now, this is probably the third in 2024. I think it's the third. And the Iranian president is going to Russia to sign it on January 17th. So that's right before Trump. Now, it appears to me that Biden stopped Netanyahu from attacking Iranian ports, piers, oil and gas, and of course the nuclear facilities. Now, this could lift as we get closer to January 20th. Biden may greenlight Netanyahu to move in this direction to fan the flames and pour kerosene on them for Trump taking over. They might have plans to impeach Trump after he gets in if he's failing. Don't think that's so stupid. They'd have to get the people in Congress to impeach him, and they would be very unlikely to do so. But if America started collapsing, having multiple wars around the world, and Trump was really losing, and American troops were getting slaughtered, and parts of America would intermittently get attacked, well, the Congress may say Trump's going to ride us into the ground. We got to change him. That doesn't mean they would go back to Biden. It means they would change him. The vice president would be the next order, and then the Speaker of the House. And, I don't know if that'll ever happen because Trump has the House and the Senate, so it doesn't sound likely, but they could be trying that. They're also afraid that Trump's going to prosecute them and return the favor. And they might. Now, a lot of people will not understand what I'm going to say, but most of the world leaders are such psychopaths and delusional that they would sacrifice millions and millions and millions of their own people and their own military to keep themselves out of jail. They have no respect for life. They have no respect for the regular people. So they would throw a country into war to save themselves from going to prison or even execution if it's treason. It's an executable offense, I believe. So we might be dealing with that they just want to throw the country in disarray because they know Trump will be coming for them, and probably Obama too, if his name starts popping up, which it probably will. Trump knows these are enemies of his. There were assassination attempts, 30 or 40 criminal charges in other places, an insane conviction for marginal felonies, 30 or 40 convictions, that they suspended the sentencing for him indefinitely, but he's still a convicted felon. Technically, Trump could not go into a gun store and buy a gun. I'm serious. Normally, the president doesn't carry a gun, or at least doesn't carry one openly. Have we had presidents in the past that maybe kept a concealed pistol on their person at times? I have no idea. I doubt it. I don't think the Secret Service would approve of that for any president, you know. But it may happen. I mean, they couldn't stop him. If he says, well, if everything goes wrong, I want my pistol. I can get myself out of it. You know, Elvis used to appear on stage with a pistol in his boot. He had a boot holster and he kept the pistol there. He was that afraid of people getting him. I don't know who he was afraid of. He could have been delusional. Who the heck knows? With all the drugs that character was chugging down. But moving along. This thing with Russia at this point sounds real. And the big reason is Ukraine has been hitting deep into Russia with long-range missiles. And they've taken out oil refineries, airports, ammo depots, many things, railways, and all sorts of stuff. And it goes on almost every day. And Putin's not been able to suppress Ukraine. Biden's bringing more weapons to them. Other NATO countries are. Russia just shot down, I think, 2 to 3 days ago, an F-16 that was given to Ukraine by one of the NATO countries, and they shot it down in Russia. Russia just shut down an Azerbaijan civilian aircraft in Russian airspace. There's pictures of the plane, and the shrapnel hit the missile. You see, when you use anti-aircraft or anti-missile missiles or anti-aircraft missiles, in the older days, like during the Vietnam War, for instance, probably the Iraq War in the 90s, they would try to get the missile to hit the plane, okay? And then it would, break a wing off. It would explode. It had small explosive. A plane is easy to destroy because they got to keep the weight down. So if the pilot saw the missile coming, it just went, and the plane veered away. If the plane missed the missile by 2 or 3 or 4 inches, it was a miss. Okay? So what they do now is they get the plane close, they get the missile close to the incoming missile or the bogey aircraft. And when the missile gets close, it explodes, and it's designed so shrapnel goes flying all over the place, which is the same thing as flak in World War II. Flak was a reasonably large artillery shell that was shot up with the incoming planes were coming in. It would explode, and shrapnel would go flying. Sometimes it would go through the windows of the plane, which were not armored back then, but today I'm pretty sure they are. Very difficult to penetrate. They're probably 2 or 3 inches thick or something, It would explode and go through the body and the windows and hit the crew, hit the pilot, hit the engines, hit the hydraulic lines, could start a fire, all kinds of stuff, right? And the planes would sometimes return to base and they'd have holes in the fuselage. Sometimes they'd return to base and they had holes in the fuselage and dead crew members or wounded. They carried first aid kits to help the wounded, but they were, they didn't have a paramedic on the plane or anything like that. So, direct pressure, bandage, morphine, that kind of thing. and hope the guy makes it. And sometimes it was hours till they returned to base. So I'm sure quite a few guys died on the way home. Um, Sometimes the crew would get hit. If the cockpit got hit and the pilot and the co-pilot were gone, well, maybe the bombardier could fly the plane to get it home, or the navigator, or but pretty much they took their parachutes and jumped. And a lot of times it was over enemy territory, and then sometimes the resistance in World War II would save them, and sometimes the Nazis would get them. It varied. So that's how they do it. So Russia did that to the Azerbaijan jet. So the Azerbaijan head of state tells Putin through social media, I expect, that we expect an apology and we want compensation. So there was some survivors and some people got killed. It was probably 25 to 30 people that got killed. Probably a similar number, I don't remember the exact count, that survived. So the compensation would be many millions of dollars, and Putin is never going to do this. And then Azerbaijan said, well, if Putin does not do this, the relationship between us and Russia has changed. Meaning he's going to turn against Russia, obviously. Now, Azerbaijan is an ally of Israel, and they have a border with Iran. So if you wanted to do attacks on Iran and Azerbaijan was against Russia, they would assumptively be against Iran, who's a close ally of Russia. And Israel could fly drones, missiles, planes into Azerbaijan and then attack Iran very easily because there's a common border. Now, Biden has probably told Netanyahu not to attack Iran for a few weeks now. And I expect he's saving it up probably till a few days before January 20th. Now, this is bad for Israel because we don't know what Russia has been doing to help Iran since the last time we attacked them. Russia made a statement that they were going to help Iran defend itself. They did not say they were going to help Iran attack Israel, but they might be trying to help Iran knock down Israeli jets, which I don't think they can knock down any of our stealthy F-35s. So this is something that was a result of that evil Biden administration doing. Iran should have been here weeks ago when we knew their radar was out and they had no defense. But Biden has hidden agendas. Okay? So we hit the Houthis yesterday. We took out, we hit an area of Yemen that's controlled by the Houthis. So there was, I think, 2 ports there that we attacked. It's rumored we sent 100 planes. So there were 2 ports we attacked that are not functioning anymore. We hit, I think, 2 power plants, one of which came back online pretty quickly, so it wasn't a major attack. We hit the airport at Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. That's their civilian, military, whatever airport, their biggest airport. And we bombed the runway, which is fairly silly because they could usually fix the runway in a matter of hours. Why? You have to bulldoze the area flat, although you can put the debris dirt back in the hole and then bring other dirt to put in the hole. And then just take blacktop or concrete and pour it and use the steamroller to make it nice and flat. And maybe you want to put concrete over the blacktop or something and wait for it to dry. That's all you got to do. So the runway should be back in action within 2 days, 3 days on the large outside, but that's a long time for that. The control tower was hit, but I saw pictures. It wasn't there on my telegram. It wasn't really hit. Control tower is intact. It had broken windows. That's not really taking out the control tower. And why didn't Israel hit any of the radar in Yemen that they had? Why? If we get enough of their radar, they're not going to have the capability to guide their missiles from Yemen into Israel. They have big radar installations to do that. Netanyahu knows that. The only reason I could see here is Biden wants to see Israel get hit again to keep the pot stirring and didn't approve Netanyahu's target package. So the damage to the airport was rather superficial. One of the two power plants that got hit came back online. I don't know the damage to the others. So the first power plant hit was superficial. Now with 100 planes, what would happen is one plane would go in and either bomb or missile attack the power plant. Then the plane would circle back, or another plane would come, and they'd observe what happened to the power plant and make a flash decision to hit it again or leave it alone. But they didn't hit it again. They left it alone. And they would know that it wasn't severely damaged. And why didn't we go after their radar and their missile launch sites? What's going on? See, we're getting played by Biden. Now, what I believe is Netanyahu is going to keep dancing to Biden's music for a little bit longer. But when it gets closer to January 20th, I think Netanyahu's going to say, the heck with Biden, what's he going to do? I got enough weapons now, and if he cancels the weapons, so what? Trump will reinstate them. It doesn't mean anything. I'm not listening to Biden anymore. I'm going to go after the Houthis for real, or I'm going to go after Iran for real. And he may be coordinating this with Trump. I would say that this would happen by January 10th, 10 days before, maybe earlier. Okay? So I think that Yahweh's going to keep playing by Biden's rules for a little bit longer, and then he's going to break. There's a chance he won't. He'll just stay till January 20th, but I don't think so. Now, the Houthis said today they're going to hit the Tel Aviv airport, Ben Gurion, and they sent an evacuation notice to the Israelis. In other words, they're telling them stay away from the Ben Gurion airport. It's going to get hit. Now, the Houthis may never get a missile to successfully hit the airport and blow up in other words, we call it land and explode, it'll probably get taken down. But last night, something like 16 people got injured running to the bomb shelters from the Houthi attack on Tel Aviv that got prevented. So they're doing this as a daily routine in the middle of the night. Now they're deviating to Ben Gurion. They're likely not going to try to hit Ben Gurion in the middle of the night because there's precious few people there. They'd probably try to hit him in the middle of the day. And it will scare people, flights will get canceled, and it will interrupt business at the airport. Now, Netanyahu is probably planning on another strike against Yemen. It may be today, tomorrow, the day after, I don't know. I imagine a lot sooner than later, but he has to organize probably at least, well, we probably have about 10 or 12 refueling tankers. Speaking of flights, Russia canceled all air traffic in 4 Moscow airports, so they're expecting trouble, or they intend to fly missiles into their enemies, and they don't want any aircraft flying around Russia that could get tagged by a missile. And coincidentally, Israel canceled flights to Moscow also. So it could be because of the Azerbaijan jet takedown, or it could be that Israel intel knows what Russia is up to with these countries in the Baltic area of Northern Europe and doesn't want to fly any planes into Russia while this is going on because nobody knows what's going to happen. So it's probably not the Azerbaijani jet, it's probably more the intel that Israel has picked up. So what I'm telling you basically is the World War III is probably about to start and fairly immediately. I'll be right back. military analysts would tell you that cutting the underground power cable and the internet cables can be likely a sign of an invasion coming. Also, several days ago, there was a Russian ship that was a civilian vessel that transported weapons for Russia. And I believe it was in the Black Sea, and it sank. And there were photos that there were 3 holes in the hull of the boat. So it was attacked or sabotaged. In other words, a bomb could have been bombs placed on the boat, or it got hit with some kind of torpedo or rocket or missile or I don't know what. Okay? So it was sabotage or attack. Putin's not happy. Okay? From Putin's point of view, having a war with NATO means Moscow and Russia in general is going to take a lot of damage and a lot of death. And he knows it. And he knows that it could be over for him. Okay? Unless China and North Korea kick into gear, which they might do. They've been very quiet. They know the closer to January 20th they get, the more disarray in America. So they could be just playing nice, and then when Russia goes, they'll attack. And that will be too much for Trump. Believe me. To walk into the White House and North and South Korea are fighting, which Japan will be involved in, and China and Taiwan are fighting, and China will try to take the Philippines and attack Guam. It'll be a massive mess. I don't know what Iran could do. I don't think much. So I'm not expecting the Middle East to light up. Europe will. South and Central America, I don't see anything. Yeah, the other day, Russia flew bombers accompanied by jet fighters right up to the international line of Alaska. They didn't violate Alaska airspace. Now, Putin may plan on attacking America through Alaska. The Bering Straits is about 42 miles. Sometimes it freezes, and the freeze might be sufficient to move equipment and troops over it. I don't know. Or it's a very fast boat trip. What, an hour and a half, 2 hours? Nothing. And North Korea and China could stage in Russia and come in too. That puts them in Alaska. Drop down through Canada and you're in America. Trump's calling Canada another state of the union and calling Trudeau a governor. So that twit could easily decide to work with Russia and China. Years ago, he let Chinese troops conduct exercises in Canada to get used to the cold weather in North America. It's definitely within the repertoire of that lunatic Trudeau to work with China and Russia against Trump. Trump talking about Mexico as a state of America could definitely motivate Mexico to side with China and Russia and let troops in. Now, nobody's talking about the sleeper agents. I'm hearing report today that drones have already been sighted in the last month in every of the 50 states. Now they're saying drones are popping up at the nuclear facilities, power plants. Biden is saying, I don't think the drones are a public threat, but I don't know what's going on. Well, that's a big inconsistency. Use your noodle. If your head, if he doesn't know what's going on, how could it be not a threat to the public? See, American people aren't that bright anymore. And they believe this stuff. The illegal aliens, as they call them, are being flown into America. These guys are tracking the flights. There are loads of flights that come in through the border. They're tied together. The sleeper agents, the constant flow of illegals, the drones, the same thing. They're letting it happen. They might be dead bent on changing America to a Sharia law country or something like that, with or without Trump. Let me take a look at the live stream. Probably got garbage in there. There are no aliens, so it's drones. Okay. So Putin knows a war with NATO will get him damaged. So what would his psychology be? By hitting the northern Baltic countries, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and Norway, it brings a war up there, not where Ukraine is. NATO has to respond, and then Putin would probably throw the kitchen sink at Ukraine to stop the weapons from attacking Russia. But he has to convince NATO to stop giving them the weapons. Now, Putin may have on his mind not a full all-out war to conquer NATO. He might be going after a big stink to bring NATO to the peace table, because they too are going to suffer a substantial amount of damage. And have NATO agree to let Putin keep the parts of Ukraine he already has. But I don't think Putin's in the mood for that. I think Putin wants all of Ukraine now. They'd have to give him all of Ukraine, which NATO could agree to do. So Putin's testing their mettle. They pushed Putin so far, Putin knows he's not winning the war in Ukraine. He's sort of losing. I mean, he's damaging Ukraine, but Mother Russia's getting damaged. So Putin's back is to the wall, guys. They pushed him far. Coincided very, very closely with Trump getting sworn in, when America will be at its weakest. It'll be much weaker than it is now, with Biden still running everything with his people. Although Biden is probably not on the side of America either. I'm very interested to see what China and North Korea have to say about this. Nothing. It's scary. The silence is deafening. There are all of a sudden no funny missile tests on the part of North Korea, and China's not circling Taiwan anymore with ships and planes. You know, it's weird, right? All these guys on the internet and social media, you know, nuclear war, this and that, you know, buy your survival food, buy your, you know, anti-nuclear war medicine, buy a radio, buy EMP protection, uh, buy this, buy that. That's how they're making money. They scare you. And then when they get you scared, you're going to, oh, we got a special on this and that survival gear and equipment or food. Then people say, oh, that's a good idea, let's buy it. And they get probably anywhere from 10 to 25% of what you spent. The fact that we saw the Houthis cut 4 cables months ago, Russia just took out 4 cables plus a power cable. China apparently took out some stuff. Get the writing on the wall. The internet cables are going to go out. Maybe not every single one of them, but a lot of them will, and it's going to stop bank transfers with the SWIFT system. And I think IBAN uses the same, which is for Europe. I think it uses the same cables. Although inside Europe, they probably have land-based cables, so they won't be affected, probably, unless they get blown up. There's almost nobody. There are people that are talking about the sleeper agents and combining these events together. Very few. I'm not the only one. But you can count them on one hand and have fingers left over. Nobody out there is talking about the year of recompenses, the year of redemption, and the day of vengeance. Go find them. I look. I don't find them. Nobody's trying to tie this together. They don't want to. They're afraid of it. They don't know what to do. None of these sites selling the survival gear and all that are telling you America's the daughter of Babylon. I haven't seen one. I haven't. There's one guy out there that I think mentions it every once in a blue moon. But he doesn't like to talk about it. Give me a second, I'll be right back. when you start talking about America, the daughter of Babylon, people leave your channel. They stop buying the goods you're promoting, which I don't do. They stop giving offerings and all of that. It's too painful for them. And then they consider you a hater because you talk about it. You know, that's stupid. I think I'm the only one. I might be reading outside, I don't know. No. I think I'm the only one trying to explain the year of recompenses and what's going on. Yet it's in the Bible. Isaiah 34:8. It says, year of recompenses, day of vengeance over the controversy of Zion. You know, they don't talk about it. The big church sites, churchianity oriented, you know, the prophecy conference guys and all that. They got big audiences. They don't talk about it. Do you think they don't know it's in the Bible? They know. They're afraid if people believe it, it'll come to pass. That's their doctrines. They don't understand God's will. You can't use faith or prayer against God's will. It doesn't work. He has a plan. They don't understand this. Because they're taught by demons who deceive them and lie to them. The scripture is deceiving and being deceived. They deceive people, and that's giving place to the devil, and then the devil can deceive them even more so. So they're all trapped in delusions and lies. They don't know what's going on. And the people that are following them are the blind follow the blind. They both fall in the pit. Isaiah 34:8. You get it in Isaiah 61, the beginning, and you get it in Isaiah 63. Isaiah 66 is helpful. Almost none of them ever teach Zechariah 12. That the countries in Zechariah 12 seem to line up with Psalm 83, and these countries are not in the Gog and Magog war, which happens way down the road, decades later. They don't get it. So they run around selling their survival gear and equipment, making money. A lot of them report the news rather accurately, I will tell you. But their analysis of the news with the Bible is completely lacking or accurate, lacking any accuracy. Practically every one, I think every one of these characters was, you know, giving everybody we wish you a Merry Christmas, you know. They don't understand. Or they do understand and they don't want to let on that they're with the enemy. So things are really screwed up in the world right now. But not to us, because all things work to good for those who love the Lord. But it says if you reject knowledge, he rejects you. The Bible is knowledge. They reject knowledge. They don't want to hear it. They refuse to hear it. We go to church on Sunday. We're saved. We're going up in the rapture. You could stay here and get your head cut off by the beast. You know, that's their idea. They've replaced Israel. You know, it's a joke. Look, there's people in the world that want to rub Buddha's belly in a statue and think it's going to bring them good fortune. There's other people that worship a statue of some woman with 8 arms. You know, it's ridiculous. People aren't real bright. But there's no middle ground. You're for him or against him. So Putin's got a real problem. Ukraine attacking civilian populations, and this means he has to go to war. Of course, Biden's continuing to give him such weapons. France is training his pilots to fly these French fighter jets they have that are very competent, good jets. You know, so they're going to do more bombings inside Russia on military and civilian targets. And F-16s have been given to Ukraine, long-range missiles, everything, you know. And Putin knows eventually, probably as we get closer to January 20th, Biden will give Ukraine weapons that will go out 300 miles. I think the most he can get is close to 200 miles down Ukraine. But they'll get longer. Hit new target packages in Russia. Putin can't just let that go on forever. His country will fold. If Ukraine keeps it up enough, he'll have to evacuate people from the areas of Russia near Ukraine, which includes Moscow and St. Petersburg, and he can't do that. Ukraine hit a 21-story residential building in Moscow recently, a few days ago. If Putin goes after these countries in the Baltic, the world's going to go rather nuts. Okay? Stock markets will likely crash. Gold will likely rally along with silver that won't be able to suppress it. It'll start rising like a rocket ship. Oil and gas prices will have to rise, but they're not going to double or triple. They'll go up. I don't think it'll be the same. And what are these people in these European countries going to do? Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and Norway. What are they going to do? Try to hold off against Russia. They can't. They don't have it. They don't have the equipment and the military. They got to wait for NATO to come save them, which NATO might do, likely do. And the EU may decide they're in the war. Likely occurrence. It's possible, listen to me, that Biden may do a massive airlift and sea maneuver of troops out of America to come help NATO and drain the American soldiers inside America down to open the door for the illegals. The vast majority of Americans won't pick up on this. Trump could do nothing about it. And once they leave America, the damage is done. When they're in Europe, they can't save America. How are they going to save America? They can't. Then China might feel very confident about hitting Taiwan and North Korea hitting South Korea. And then Biden send more troops over there, and then the sleeper agents take over in there. So we're getting to the end of the year of recompenses. August 10th, 2023, the Lord told me we're in recompenses. Then I learned later on that the year is not a very exact, precise 12-month year. So August 10th was a year in 2024. Then you got to September, October, November, December. We're almost into 5 months after the 12-month year, which still meets the Shanat year. And the Lord was showing me the other day. I thought, oh no, we're going to be doing this for many months. And he said, no, he calmed me down. No, it's not going to go that long. He didn't give me a precise time, but he got me off of that. It's going to be a long time. It's not. I'd say we're quite close. The first thing I'm looking for is Elijah to start working openly and the temple to appear. And it will appear on the mountain. And 99.999% of the church will. Has no concept of this. And they probably aren't going to be too quick to accept Elijah, and the signs and wonders will be attributed to Satan and the beast and the false prophet. That type of thing. But they're not going to be with us very long. They're not. Them and their Sunday church and their singing Christmas trees and wiping their feet on the scriptures with seditions, which is a division of denomination, variants. Oh, we don't know if it's pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib. We accept all of them. You know, some pray in tongues, some don't. Some baptize in the Holy Spirit, some don't. Some have a house church, some have a building church. Some have a denomination, some don't have a denomination. Some this, some that. You know, that's variance. They have varying doctrines, and they accept all of them as possibly being true, so that people get the impression that you can't understand the scriptures. But of course, we know you can. They can't because they don't have the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit. They have another spirit. 2 Corinthians 11:4. So. Is there a chance Russia is just doing a bluff move up in the Baltic states? I highly doubt it. They're also talking about Belarus getting into the war to create a land bridge. They want to cut off, what Putin's trying to do is cut off these Baltic states from land so they can't get support from NATO by land. So, you know, it's one thing to put tanks on trucks and trains and bring them in. It's a whole other ball game to try to put a large amount of tanks on aircraft and fly them in. I don't think there's any planes that could hold. They could hold a tank. Maybe there's some that could hold 2 tanks, but that's dropping the bucket. You need hundreds and hundreds of tanks to hold off Russia. You know, and we're talking 300, 200, 500. You know. Not 40 or 50 tanks. It's not going to do it. The Russian army is probably pretty happy to go in and do this already because they're probably miserable over being attacked inside of Russia. There's oil refineries. Russian stock market, I think, is a joke. The currency, the ruble, is down. Trump wants to stop BRICS. You know, on down. So what's Netanyahu going to do with the Houthis? Probably hit them again and again, but I think Biden is curtailing the intensity of the attacks. And Netanyahu will be listening to him probably for another few days. Maybe Netanyahu's thinking, I'm close enough to Trump, I could do what I want now. He could be there. I don't know. This, I'm sure, is Netanyahu's thinking, but I'm also sure Netanyahu's not going to talk about it to the public. So things are very, very, very interesting in Europe right now. And Putin said if he said, I'm not interested in any ceasefire, because the ceasefire will just give Ukraine time to regroup and refortify and rebuild. So Trump's idea of putting 40,000 NATO soldiers into Ukraine, you know, letting Russia stay in the parts of Ukraine they've already conquered and stopping any further attacks deeper into Ukraine, Putin said no. So Trump's free to come to me and talk, but he has to open the negotiation. So he's basically saying, Trump, you come to me asking for peace, I'll talk to you, but I'm not coming to you. So, you know, it looks like it's going down, and don't be surprised because we all knew it's going to go down. We just didn't know exactly when or how. And I'm extremely suspicious about China and North Korea becoming so docile all of a sudden. This is out of character. Usually they try to fan the flames. Now they're trying to, you know, play low key. Not something that is normal for them. So they may open it up too. They might wait for Russia to make the first move and watch America transfer a lot of military soldiers over to the European theater, which is already quite a few there now. And America's already been transferring a lot to Europe. So if China thinks it's a good move, then it may start with North Korea and Taiwan, and they'll definitely take the Philippines. It has strategic importance. It was a big deal in World War II. And then we have to talk about the sleeper agents, because we'd be fairly stupid if we think that there's nothing to this. And the Trumps. And Trump definitely alienated California and Mexico with making them part of America. He alienated the Panama people, but I don't think they're very significant. And I don't think Denmark is going to get that mad at Trump because he said he wanted to buy Greenland. I don't think they're going to react to it. But I think Canada and Mexico will. They weren't trying to annex Greenland as a state. They were trying to buy it. That's one thing. I want to buy Greenland. Sorry, it's not for sale. Oh, okay, if you change your mind, call me, sure. You know, that's the end of that. But making them a state, that's rather scary for Trudeau. That would make him a governor of relatively little power compared to what he has now. And put Trump in control over him, which is something that I don't think he wants any part of. I gotta check the weather for a second here. Rain in about a half hour. I don't hear any rain now, so I don't think it's raining. No, I don't hear it. All right. So let me get back to my notes and see what else we got. Um, Bashar's wife, they were saying she was going to divorce him, and then the Russian newspaper said, no, it's not true. And now they say that she had a relapse of leukemia and she's being held in Russia. Implication, medical treatment. Her plan was to divorce Bashar Assad in Russia and then go to, I think, the UK or whatever country she originated out of and live there. And the risk was that she would um, start giving interviews, writing books, appearing on talk shows, and telling people what Bashar Assad did and how the Russians helped him. And any roles the man had and stuff like that. So they locked her up. She may or may not have leukemia. She may have been so stressed that she came down with a relapse of leukemia, but more than likely, I think they're just detaining her. They're saying that it's 50-50 if she's going to live. So, also, if she went to the UK, they could charge her criminally for conspiracy or something like that and force her to answer questions and things like that. That's just a side issue. That's not really a big important thing to show. So that's why Syria is still in disarray. One group of people fighting another. The HTS people, the rebels that are running Syria, are apparently doing a genocide against the Alawites, which Bashar Assad was. So it's just they're not telling you what's really going on, but it's a complete zoo. It's a madhouse over there. It's not right. So I think we could expect to see more strikes on the Houthis and the Houthis continuing to try to strike us unless then Yahoo breaks away and starts taking down their radar and missile sites and things like this. And then Biden will hit the roof, and, then Yahoo might want to wait a little bit longer to get closer to the Trump inauguration. I'm not sure. We'll find out. Let's do Isaiah 53. It's a great chapter. We'll start in verse 1. Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Well, who believes our report of the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man and people getting everlasting life? They don't believe it. It pertains to Yeshua, doesn't it? They don't believe it. And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? Well, that basically is kind of the same thing, although this was referencing Yeshua on earth back then. But it also appears, Yeshua in the clouds. When is the arm of the Lord revealed? Well, that's what it is when he appears in the clouds. The word for revealed is golah, uncovered, removed. See what it's another. It's the second time he's revealed. For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. So he's not going to be a gorgeous person. When it already happened, of course. When he appears, he will be super glorious. He is despised and rejected of men. And we are, because we tell the truth about the Bible. A man of sorrows. We're like him, right? We have the sorrows, and acquainted with grief. That's us. And although not as bad, but we have it. We're all busted up, worn out. We hid, as it were, our faces from him. That's them, not us. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, and when he does appear, we'll be laughing and they'll be crying. For this very reason, this was part of the work he did, and it will manifest when we appear to be the sons of God, when we shine. This is foreign to the church. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. He was. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our lawlessness. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. He was actually the peace offering, but to have peace with God, you have to get the sins removed. Our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Okay, and that's the healing we get in Hosea 1 and 2. He binds us up. You see that? That's the everlasting life. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned everyone to his own way, and Jehovah hath laid on him the lawlessness of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as the sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. He wasn't threatening them and all that. He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. Cut off out of the land of the living, out of the earth, and went to heaven. But he also went down to the pit for 3 days and preached to them, dry bones, And he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. He had a tomb from a very rich guy that the body was placed in. Because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. So he was innocent, but got it anyway for our sake. Yet it pleased Jehovah to bruise him. He hath put him to grief. That's for our sake. when thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin. He shall see his seed. So he was also a sin offering, but the animal for sin offering is a steer, a bullock. He was a lamb, and that's the peace offering. But again, you got to get rid of the sins, that peace with God. And the pleasure of Jehovah shall prosper in his hand. He shall see of the travail of his soul, and shall be satisfied by his knowledge. Shall my righteous servant justify, Sadiq, sort of justify, many, for he shall bear their lawlessness. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great. That should be Gadol. No, Rav, with the many. Jump chapters on me. Therefore I divide him a portion of the great, of the many, I think, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong. That's us. Because he hath poured out his soul unto death, and he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many, made intercession for the transgressors. That's praying. The doors are either in the house or outside. They're spread around. They're all here. Okay, so that's what I got for today. I think we need to take this thing with Russia extremely seriously. So get ready. Be prepared. Okay? And don't be surprised if China and North Korea break out and the sleeper agents break out and everything comes all at once. Because that's the best bet for Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, Venezuela, Cuba, Belarus. That's their best bet. Okay, so I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing, and pray for our finances. Pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for mercy for yourselves, for Israel, for the believers. Mercy. That's the way to go. Mercy. Pray for mercy. Don't pray like you're worthy. Pray for mercy like you're not worthy. And throw yourself on the mercifulness of the Lord. That's, I think, the best way to go here. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. You might want to subscribe if you want to get the updates as it starts happening, and you might want to join my Telegram. Just send me an email if you need to know about my Telegram. And I'm out. My email address in the chat up at the top and in the very last line in the description box. So I send my Shabbat Shalom, it's Friday, to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. I'm out.